The generation of clinical waste of hospitals in Malaysia has increased significantly over the last few decades. Even though the serious impact of the clinical waste on human beings and the environment is significant, only minor attention is directed to its proper handling and legal aspects.
This podcast is brought to you by Tomy Autoclave. Improve your work efficiency and sterilization experience with Tomy Autoclave.
Hello everyone, welcome to FC BIOS podcast. I am Putri and today we are talking about guidelines for infectious waste disposal with Jason, who is a trained researcher with years of experience in microbiology and food safety applications. Hi Jason.
Hi Putri, morning. That's a great topic to discuss today.
Alright Jason, how do you go about on giving our listeners a head start on what is meant by infectious waste disposal?
Sure Putri. So basically when you're working with animal or human tissues, blood or any other bodily fluids, plants or animal pathogens or even recombinant DNA, these are actually infectious waste. Alright? So to put it in simple terms, according to WHO, infectious waste is basically a waste that potentially contaminated and can spread diseases, right? And this basically includes viruses, bacteria, or even any other things that can pose a health risk, okay? So there are a lot of types and sources of infectious waste, right? For example, in a hospital setting, staff that use needle to give injection or even to draw blood, those are the source of infectious waste. Okay, any bodily parts, tissue, organs that been removed during surgeries, those are infectious waste. Okay, even your excretion, your feces and your urine that end up in any of the bedpans or even toilet, those are infectious waste, right?
I see. So, Jason, how about those labs dealing with biological materials?
Okay, that's a good question. That's the same true for any research lab or any clinical labs that deal with any biological materials, okay? Actually, a lot of work is done in a lab that involve tissues or even cell culture, fluids. All these actually can pose a risk to our health, okay? For example, to name a few, like your scalpel, or your scissors, needle, syringe, even your protective gear, like for example, your glove, your lab coat, your face shields, those actually pose a serious health.
Oh, wow, Jason, I hope our listeners do take points on what you just briefed us. I can say that infectious waste require careful disposal and containment before collection and consolidation for treatment. However, Jason, how about the pre-treatment with either like alcohol, bleach or any disinfectant? Will they be as effective or how?
Okay, the major problem associated with infectious waste is actually the potential for occupational exposure. Okay, the disposal of the infectious waste should therefore be performed in an effective manner to minimize the potential of exposure even to the personnel who's handling it. Okay,
Alright.
so basically what you need to do is to basically segregate your waste, your infectious waste, according to its type, right? Next is to basically to contain and to transport the infectious waste from one location to another. Okay. Next is basically your PPE, is your personal protective gear, right? The next point will be the chemical decontamination, right? So basically, what is this chemical decontamination? It's very easy. It's your liquid bleach, your alcohol, or any disinfectant, right? So, and next is basically a treatment of mixture hazardous waste, such as your combination of your infectious agent or even radioisotopes from the chemotherapy, for example.
Oh, I see. So these are the kinds of pre-treatments that can be done, right, Jason?
Yes, that's correct.
Alright, dear listeners, remember this. Anything can become contaminated as per what Jason had claimed just now. So a mug, a blanket, any objects near you or around you can be contaminated.
True.
Come to my understanding, one cannot clean a contaminated item as they normally would do. Somehow, they need to remove it safely from the premises without posing a risk to yourself or others in the process and dispose of it appropriately. No dumping it in the nearest bin. So this isn't just a case of best practice, it's a necessity, it's the law. So, Jason, to get our listeners to be cautious, can you share with us how one should deal with the waste?
Alright, so in Malaysia, the management and disposal for infectious waste is actually regulated by our KKMM itself, which is the Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia. Alright, so basically one needs to understand and know on how to dispose the infectious waste according to the KKM waste disposal policy. For example, all waste from the patient is actually classified as Class A infectious waste. Okay, so basically all treatments or disposal, including the transport of waste, should therefore follow the guidance or the guidelines for category A infectious waste. So for example, you can actually autoclave them or to send it for incineration. Okay, I did mention about autoclaving and incineration, right? But do you know the difference? So basically, autoclave is in a common setup, and autoclave is basically steam autoclaving, right, in a lab. So it's a very common method, or it's a golden standard method to autoclave or decontaminate culture in the labs. Okay, so basically autoclave is a slightly smaller scale compared to incineration. Okay, incineration on the other hand is basically you burn up the waste. Okay, you burn them. So, and this is usually very common, especially in a hospital setting, because they have a larger volume.
So, Jason, I think this is good enough, because I hope that our listeners do take points on what you just briefed us. So I can say that infectious waste require careful disposal and containment before collection and consideration for treatment. So whatever waste that you are handling, it's imperative that you follow the procedures instructed and minimize the direct contact. This ensures that you break a link in the chain of infection and stop the spread of infectious disease.
Yes, that's indeed true, Putri.
So thank you, Jason, for today. So dear listeners, just know this, your safety is important to us. Do explore other FC BIOS podcasts by visiting our website www.fcbios.com.my to explore more. If you have any questions or suggestions, do email us at inquiry@fcbios.com.my.